This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. That includes bootstrappers just starting out, established business owners, and business leaders. My goal is to help you grow both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Today's sponsor is Audible. Audible.com is the world's largest repository of spoken audio information, entertainment, etc. Audio books, podcasts, college classes, Audible originals, which can be in the form of a book, instructions, or even an old school radio program type of drama, etc. For example, you can listen to some Sherlock Holmes stories that are dramatized with voice actors taking the various voices and sound effects and a little bit of music in between, which is really nice. Now, I love Audible very much. If you've listened to my podcast for any length of time, you know it's my favorite sponsor and the only sponsor I've been actually running with these days. And today's recommendation is the book 48 Days to the Work You Love. Now, if you're listening to my podcast, you probably have already found what you love to do, but if not, or perhaps you're trying to find what you love to do, because this is a bootstrap podcast, well, this is the book that got me started on that journey. It's an amazing book. He talks about finding your true vocation, your true calling, which is very important to do. And it's an excellent book. You might find that maybe you don't want to run your own business, but maybe you'll find a better spot, a better job than where you're currently at that you'll be happier with. Great book. Highly recommend it. And of course, you can get a free copy with your free 30-day trial over at audible.com/bootstrap. That's bootstrap with a capital B. And you can select the $14.95 trial. You get one Audible credit that's good for any book, plus 2 Audible originals that you keep forever. Plus, you get to listen to their listening library, which is pretty expansive, for the entire month. And at the end of your trial, you can keep going or you can cancel at any time. And if you keep going, you just get another credit every month and another 2 Audible originals every month. And you continue to listen to all their great selection of the listening library, which is amazing value. But if you do cancel, you do keep your books that you buy, the full books on the credit, and you keep your Audible originals forever. And anytime you want, you can go in and just pick them up. They're great. Go check them out, audible.com. Bootstrap with a capital B to get your free trial. Anyway, let's get into this. So, today I'm going to be talking about how to train people, your employees, people under your instruction, whatever. How do you train? Now, this is again part of the Leadership Series because every good leader needs to know how to train and raise up people. And even if you're a parent or even a sibling, you'll find yourself training somebody at some time. Now, when I train, there's some certain things to do with training, of course, but the method I like to do is, I call it the Jesus method. And if you've listened to my podcast for any length of time, you know that I am a Christian, and I'm not afraid to say that, not ashamed of that. But I'm not going to get super religious on you. I'm just going to use the example set by Jesus as the way he trained. Now, there are other great leaders who have done this in a similar way, but being a Christian, this is the one that's most familiar to me. And that is the I do, you watch, you do, I watch, you do, I'm gone. That was the method Jesus used. If you look at the Gospels, look at the life of Jesus, and look at how he trained his disciples, this is what he did. He would teach, he would do, they would watch. Then he would send them off and have them teach and have them do, and he would watch and or listen to the reports when they came back. And then he left and they were on their own. That was the method Jesus used in the Gospels. Now, I'm not going to go on and go hyper-religious. Just going to say it's an excellent method and I've had a lot of success with it. Now, let's start with the I do, you watch. And we'll break this down. So, when you're doing it for someone to watch, you're not just doing something, but you have to explain it. You don't make them just watch and don't say anything. But as you do it, you explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it helps people get a visual and an audio connection to what you're doing. So, for example, when I was working back in the arcade with Jason, when we got a new guy or gal and I was teaching him how to do it, I would say, okay, we're going to open up the lock here. Obviously, we have to get in. Now, if we're going to change tickets, we have to make sure we need to have them this full. If they're not this full, they can run out. So we have to check. Okay, we put our hand here. So as I do it, I'm explaining step by step what I'm doing and why I do it. Now, I'm going to stick my hand here. If you see my hand, where my hand is, if the tickets are above here, then it's good. If it's below here, then it's not good. Explaining, doing it so they can see what I'm doing, and I slow myself down. Whenever I'm training, I do it no more than a quarter of the total speed I can do it at normal capacity. So I take my time, do it slowly, show them what to do, explain step by step by step. And an important part is when you're explaining, and this will come into the next part too, is give good concrete examples, good concrete steps. When you're telling them what to do, when you're showing them what to do, you need to say, you need to do this exactly this many times, or exactly this much. Firm details that they can lock onto, solid things. Not, well, you do it around, how you feel. If you feel it's right, then you'll know. Or, you'll know it when you see it, and stuff like that. I've had people try to train me like that. It's like, no, that doesn't work. Matter of fact, an example of this is when I worked at Radio Shack, they were very good at their sales training. And they had very concrete steps. I wish I had the sales card, but they had a whole list of steps. What type of questions to ask, make sure you understood what the customer was needing, make sure you could ask enough questions to get them the right piece and part, make them feel comfortable, all these steps, and all the way down to the close and the add-on sales and everything else. It was a very step-by-step, very concrete process. Well, after that, my wife also worked at Radio Shack. We moved back to my hometown, back in Tahoe. She got a job at a jewelry store. Now, this was not a super fancy jewelry store. It was actually a costume jewelry store. They sold cubic zirconia instead of diamonds, something like rose gold or gold over silver, and just it looks nice, but it was not really expensive or super fancy. But that's beside the point. Point is, the guy who owned the place, his sales training was like, hey, aren't you a pretty lady? Look, this makes you look beautiful with these earrings. And it was just talking at the ladies with his jewelry on, and he would get them to buy the jewelry. That was his technique. Very kind of loose, not very step by step, not very methodical. And when I read through it, it was like a used car salesman. And I'm going to have to do a whole section on sales. I really need to do that. But it was, when I read through the sales training, my wife's like, read this. I read through it, and it was about his personality type. Oh, when you see a lady, you just have to find her best feature and just kind of say, it wasn't concrete. It was his style. And that's about it. He described his style. There was no steps, no rhyme, no reason. Nothing. However, my wife was much better than him, quite honestly. Maybe I'm a little biased, but she used the Radio Shack approach. She would ask the ladies what they were looking for, try to figure out what they were needing it for, finding ways to get them to like it and buy it. And again, in 1 month, one of the months she worked there, she sold 40% of the entire store's sales she was responsible for. She consistently sold 25 to 30% of all the store sales in the store every single month. We were getting a full extra paycheck every single month from her sales commission alone because she was very methodical about the way she did it. So when you're training and when you're showing and you're explaining, give good concrete steps. Step here, step here, step here. Do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is what you do. And with these concrete instructions, you can then make sure that they fully understand what they're doing. Then part 2 comes, and that is you do, I watch. Now, when I got this part, when I was working in the arcade again, I'm just going to keep with this example here. There was a technician at the arcade who trained like this. And at the time, of course, I had not done my leadership training or done a lot more of the leadership that I have since then. But his technique was he would show you how to do it. Once you learned how to do it, then he would go break a bunch of games and make you fix it while he watched. And I liked that and I adapted that. And maybe I went a little bit too far, but maybe not. So what I would do is I get the employee, I would show them how to fix the game, show them how to refill tickets. Then I would have them refill tickets while I watched. Okay, great, cool. Have them go through the basic things while I watched. Okay. And then I would go around and purposely break the games. Now, by break the games, I didn't cave in the screen with a hammer or anything like that. No. Just the typical things and failures that happen. Ticket jams, a coin being jammed up in the ticket slot, tickets jammed up in the coin slot, this sort of thing. The typical things that kids do to damage the games, or not really damage them, but interrupt their functionality. I would go in, open up the machine, stick like 4 or 5 quarters in, open the door, put it closed to replicate a coin jam, all this stuff. I would do all the typical stuff that would mess up the games. And then I would have the employee go out and fix it. The first couple times I'd do this, I'd watch them as they did it. And then I would wait until it was midweek, quiet night. We only had 1 or 2 customers in. And I would go and I'd go break 3 or 4 machines. And I would go back and send them, get on the mic or the walkie-talkie, say, hey, go fix this, this, and this. They would go fix those 3, and while they were fixing those 3, I'd break another 3. They'd fix those 3, I'd go break another 3, and I did this all night. Usually 1 to 2 nights when I could. And they hated me for it. They were going crazy with me because I was making it really hard on them to keep up. I was doing this on purpose. Because when I was doing this, what I was doing was in a safe way on a calm night when I was right there, and I was sometimes even watching from a distance how they did and fixed it. They were getting the practice to fix the hardest problems I could throw at them. And most of them thanked me because when the weekend came and it was crazy, crazy busy and the games were breaking and the games were running out of tickets and all these other things that were going on, well, compared to the training I gave them, this was easy. And so they never really stressed, even on the craziest days after I got done training them, because I had already put them through the ropes where I could sit there and watch them in a safe place and then come and help and correct them when they needed help. And then when the weekend came and I wasn't there, or I was otherwise occupied with other duties, they were completely competent to go do the job without me there. And they were fully trained, and it was great. And I applied this technique of training everywhere I went. And it's not always that easy. That was pretty straightforward. But the principles remain the same. Again, these are core principles. Now, sometimes you need to find a motivation factor for an employee and work that in to the training. For example, I had this one guy named Alex for me at Radio Shack, and he hated cell phones with a passion. He really did not like cell phones. Just personally, he didn't like them. He was never wanting to buy one himself. He just didn't like cell phones. Now, I completely understood this about him and how he didn't like cell phones. So I would just sit there and with this came a problem because at that time that's when Radio Shack was trying to be a phone store. So he needed to sell phones. But it's really hard to sell something that you don't personally like. No, I know that because that's what it was when I working and selling timeshare, trying to get people to do timeshare tours. So one day he would try. Of course he would try. He was a good guy. He wasn't going to not do his job. He would try. But his heart wasn't in it. Until one day when I had a guy come in that was a man after the guy's own heart. He said, I don't like cell phones because I had to try to sell him a cell phone. That was my job. I hate cell phones. I don't see a point in cell phones. And I looked at the guy and said, tell you what, I got a phone. It's like $15. You buy it. You keep the battery charged. You never even have to turn it on. You just keep the battery charged, leave it in your car, and if you get in an emergency, you can just pick it up, call 911. You don't even have to have a phone number. You go, oh, okay, I'll buy it. Plop down the 10, 15 bucks or whatever. I got the phone, set it up for him, showed him how it worked. He said, thank you very much. I said, you're welcome. You have a good day. And he walked out the door, and he was a happy customer. And I got my cell phone sale for the week, which I was supposed to. And I looked over, and that kid, Alex, just looked at me. His jaw was on the floor. He goes, how'd you do that? I'm like, what? You sold him a phone. He doesn't like phones. I don't like phones. But you got him to buy one. I'm like, yeah. And I explained, I know you don't like selling cell phones, but even if you don't like cell phones, there are good reasons to have one. And if you can find those and it can help your customer, then you can sell phones better. And from that day on, his attitude towards selling cell phones changed. And because he saw that there was some value in some way, shape, or form, he was able to get behind the product and actually sell the product. So I was able to give him an example of a good use for the phone to kind of break through that. So sometimes you have to work a little bit to get the right motivation going on. But that's kind of part of the training. Give good concrete examples. And if the person in training is struggling with something, try to find that point that they're struggling with. That one thing that's holding them back, that's keeping them from stepping out and trying. Is it they don't like the product? They don't like the service? Are they afraid? Are they timid? Are they shy? Yes, there's more than just the basic. And you have to kind of work with that. And each person's different. Sometimes if they're really, really shy, maybe you can work out and ask them, so when you're shy, you need to talk to the customer. Well, first of all, maybe you need to try to find a better position for them in your company if they're too shy to talk to customers and they're supposed to do sales, of course. But in the case of working retail, you talk to them, so you're a little bit shy about this, so why are you shy? And ask questions. The Socratic method is wonderful for this, and that is asking questions. ask them, why are they shy? Why are they afraid for? And then when they say, well, I'm afraid, they'll say no. And you can say, but what if they say yes? Make them think, oh, what if they say yes? Now, if they are wanting a phone, what are some accessories you can sell with that? Phone case, yeah. A headset, and ask them questions and get them to answer. And that's the other part of training and debating, even arguing, whatever. But even in training, if you can ask people questions and get them to come up with the right answer themselves, they're going to learn a lot better. And a lot of the training is not as straightforward as teaching somebody how to fix a machine in an arcade. You have to ask different questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Get them to come up with the right answer themselves. And that is even more powerful for them to learn. And again, lead by example. Let them see you work. Let them see you do it. Then you watch them. Correct them as they go. Polish them up. Say, now, when you did this, why did you do this? Well, I did this. Well, that's when you're watching. That's when you ask questions. So, why did you open that first? Because I thought it'd be easier. Okay, good. Or, well, okay. Was it easier? No. Why not? Because I didn't see this part was here. Yes, okay. So go, maybe you need to think about the step process you do. So when you're watching them, that's when you start asking the questions. Well, why did you do this? Or if you're doing a sales associate or something like that, so how'd that go? Well, I made a sale. Now, do you think you could have sold more? No. Do you think maybe if you asked them if they wanted this or this, you could sell more? Oh, maybe. And again, you put things in questions and try to draw out of them what they did wrong, what they did right, how they can improve. But they answer the questions and you can draw that out. When you draw that out, they don't feel like you're beating up on them. They don't feel like you're lecturing them done right because you can ask, again, loaded questions like, why are you so stupid? Well, that's technically a question, but not really. But the Socratic method, well, what do you think of this? Now, how did it go? Now, could you improve on this? Now, can you improve on that? Or do you think you did a good job? Yes. Okay, then why do you think you did a good job? Yes, well, then you would be correct. You did a wonderful job, and those are the exact reasons you did. So you can come back with positive reinforcement with these. So these are ways to train. And again, the final thing is let them loose. Eventually, when you train someone, when you have kids, eventually they have to go fly on their own. You have to let them loose. Now, the arcade example was great because it's very condensed. Usually the training time was 3 days before they were turned loose, and you had to let them go and just go work and then go help them if need be. But how long it takes to train is all different depending on jobs, details, all that, of course. I understand it's not as straight. This is a straight plan. Also, with training, it does help that you do create a reference guide, a manual of some sort to help them answer questions when they're not sure, or set up a command structure of who they can go to get help with if they don't understand. In the arcade, we had the leads, and then if the leads couldn't understand how to fix a game, then they could go ask the supervisor. If the supervisor wasn't available or didn't know, then you would go to the mechanics. So there was a step-by-step hierarchy of assistance that people had to get help to fix things, and clear instructions of when they shouldn't try to fix something, when they should try to fix something, all that good stuff. That was all in there. And another thing about training, if you have employees that are with you for a long period of time, it's ongoing. It's never really going to stop, because if you're a learner, personally, you'll get better yourself. And if your employees are learners, which is what you want, a teachable spirit, you're always going to be able to help train and improve and help them grow. And personally, I think that's really key in being an employer. And this is a big key of why I do this podcast. I want to help people grow. And so don't stop training. Don't think training ends in one day. And sometimes there's always a situation that you don't think about teaching them about, but will pop up anyway. Back to the arcade example, you'll maybe teach them how to fix coin jams and ticket jams, the two most common problems in the arcade. But then someone comes up and says, hey, the machine took my money and nothing happened, and they look and there's no coin jam, and what do I do now? And you can go, oh yeah, this game, I forgot. This game can reset. Did you ask them what happened? Like, no. Well, ask them what happened. Okay. What happened? Well, I took the coin, I was playing, all of a sudden the screen went blank and came up weird. And then you could go, okay, on this one, we give them their money back, we start the game for them because I didn't think about it, but this one is susceptible to static shock. And if you touch it with static, it resets the game. And yes, the old Pac-Man game that we had, the old Miss Pac game, if you were playing it and somebody touched the cabinet, the metal coin door, with a key or something, and they had been walking the carpet, it would shock the whole game and reset the game while the person was playing. We knew this because we would do this to each other. If any of us were playing, we'd sneak up on them and zap the machine just to get at them, because we were so lovely and mature at 18, 19, 20 years old, of course. But these are little things that come up that you train as you go, because you're not going to cover everything. And a lot of your ability to train comes from your own experience. Oftentimes, we learn how to fix a problem just from doing it ourselves so many times, and we don't even think about it until it comes time to train, and then we see it happen and go, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this and that and the other thing as you go. It happens. And I learned this a lot when I was teaching my employee how to do balloon animals. And I even taught balloon animals a long time ago. It's kind of what got me started in doing balloons. When I was on staff with the missionary base, we would do balloon animals on our missionary trips for the kids. And so I would teach. This is where a lot of my training experience came from. One of the things I taught was balloon animals. So that was fine and good, but then years later, it'd been years, teaching my employee, I realized that I had gotten so much better at making the figures that I couldn't even think of how I did things sometimes. So I had to stop and think back and go through things and go, oh yeah, this is what I did. Or I would send the employee to go do something and come back and realize that, oh wow, he's doing it wrong. And it's not really a bad, it's getting the jobs done, but he can be so much more efficient. I didn't even think about it. I do it differently, and I didn't even realize I did. So I'd go up and explain. So the training doesn't stop. Always look for training opportunities. And one last thing to know about training is this: be willing to be taught by your employee as well. This is a two-way street. Sometimes, as you're training, the employee can say, well, why don't you do it this way? You go, huh? And you look at it, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's really good. And I had that with my employee, never done balloons before. A couple times said, oh, did you think of doing this way, this way, this way? I'm like, no, I didn't. Wow, I'm amazed. Good job. And my employee picked up things much, much quicker than I did and figured out some things much better than I did, which is why, even though he had to leave me and go to college, I've told him, if you need a reference, give me as a reference. If you need a reference letter, let me know, because this guy was a great guy, and he taught me things about business. He was teaching me about Instagram, for example. He helped teach me even the balloons. Sometimes we go, oh, why don't you just do it this way? Oh, never thought of that. And I tried it. His way was better. So we did it his way. So when you train, be open to be learning as well. Have a teachable spirit yourself. And when it comes to the people you're training, this is so important because this builds relationship, this builds trust, this builds a good friendship, and it builds an openness. Because if the person you're working for is not a know-it-all, if the person you're working for hears you and listens to you and acknowledges that you have input, you're going to be a lot more loyal to that guy than the guy just says, do it the way I said, or else. My way or the highway, buddy. Yeah, those types of guys, no fun to work for. If you don't want to be that guy, because then you don't get loyal customers. Hey, or customers, employees, both actually. So anyway, there's my little bit on training. I could probably go more on this, more details, but that's just the overview. And again, it varies from thing to thing to thing, from job to whatever you're doing, of course. But these are the basics. And I'm just going to sum up this. The method is basically, I do, you watch, use concrete examples when you do. You do, I watch, and when you're watching, this is not just standing there and staring. This is interacting with them, using the Socratic method, asking them questions while they're doing what they're doing, why they're doing it, and then again, giving concrete things for them to do to correct things they're doing wrong, or to encourage them to say, hey, that's great what you did there. That's a great thing. Keep doing that. Use concrete things. And then, of course, you do, I'm gone. You have to be willing not to micromanage, let them go, and go do their work. And, of course, lastly, as you go through this, always be open to learn from your learner, the person who is learning from you, your employee, your kids, your youth group kids, whatever it is. Be willing to learn, make it a two-way street, and you'll get a much better result. Anyway, you'll have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. If you found value in this content, please leave a comment and give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. We're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, and most other podcast platforms. If you would like to support us, you can check out our sponsor links, or if you'd like to support us directly, you can donate or join our membership program at buymeacoffee.com/bootstrap. Of course, it really helps when you share these podcasts with your friends as well. If you'd like to interact with me and other bootstrappers and leaders, you can join us over at our O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, an Atheoz Business Solutions podcast. For a companion podcast, the Atheoz Business Podcast, which is hosted by Jason St. Clair, past episodes and related blogs, please check out our website at www.atheoz.com, which is at www.atheoz.com or theoz.com. Until next time, I have been your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor.